Hello and welcome everyone to segment 2 of our 3-part webinar series, Stress Management, Teachers, and COVID Disrupted Classrooms. I'm Dr. Tracy Scanlon, and I'm the Clinical Director at Outreach Teen and Family Services. And for those of you who weren't with us for segment 1, we want to just give you a little bit of background about who we are. And we are a nonprofit counseling agency located in the South Hills area of Pittsburgh. And we have master's level clinicians who serve children, youth, and their families who are dealing with adjustment issues and sometimes anxiety and sometimes depression. And we consider ourselves thought leaders and community support. And it has always been our pleasure and deeply meaningful to us to especially support our teachers and educators and administrators in the education system. And we think it's really important that we support you even more right now. And so we hope that you will find the information that our facilitators have prepared for you to be helpful, and that you will find this a safe place to learn and to maybe build some sense of community with the others who have joined us. Tonight, we have some information to share with you that includes an informal poll that we've taken with educators and teachers from Allegheny County, Westmoreland County, and Butler County. And we pulled those folks because your opinion matters, and it's very important that we learn from you exactly what the struggles are that you anticipate for a return to the classroom. So before I turn this over to your very skilled facilitators, I will repeat what I said for segment 1, which is please show us some grace. We are therapists and therefore not really well known for being great at technology or great at math. So knowing those two things, we hope that you will be patient with us as we try to move through the technological challenges that we might find here. Lastly, I wanted to share with you what I think is a good theme for this segment. It's a quote by Bjorn Lindenblad, and he is a monk and a transcendentalist, and there's a really wonderful TED Talk that we'll include in segment 3, where we talk a little bit about his theories on how negative thinking can really impede our own mental wellness. And he says this: I no longer believe in everything I think. After 20 years of being a monk and a meditator, the greatest lesson that he ever learned was not to believe every little thought that entered his mind. And with that, I welcome you to segment 2, and I turn you over to the very capable hands of 2 of our clinicians, Jacqueline Wasco and our newly licensed clinician, Elizabeth Rychek. Ladies.
Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate it. My name is Elizabeth Rychek, and I am a counselor at Outreach. And we're going to talk just briefly about our goals for tonight, and then we're going to get right into the thick of it. So we have 4 goals for tonight. The first one is to help you understand the connection between your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors, and how these things impact anxiety, how we might be able to use that knowledge to address your anxiety about COVID. The second goal is to recognize common cognitive distortions. You'll learn about what those distortions are, what those might be. The third goal is to dispute those cognitive distortions in order to change your feelings and your behaviors. And finally, to familiarize yourself with various coping skills, including deep breathing, which we talked about last webinar, and meditation, among some others as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little overview from what we did. We ended last webinar with a deep breathing exercise. So for those of you who were not able to view our webinar last time live, I encourage you to look it up on YouTube, and you can see what we've done, but I'm going to give a quick overview of how to do it now. Hopefully, if you did visit with us last time, that you've been practicing this. And I want to give a special shout out to Marianne in Deer Lake. So she communicated with us that she'd been trying this and practicing every day, and I think that's great. I love to hear feedback like that. So thank you, Marianne. Okay, so there's really 3 steps to the deep breathing. And again, this is going to be a real quick overview. And many of you probably have heard of this anyways. So the proper way to breathe is to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay, so that's step 1. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Step 2 is to coordinate your belly with your breathing. So when you breathe in through your nose, your belly should rise. When you breathe out through your mouth, your belly should fall. Okay, so in through your nose, your belly's rising, out through your mouth, your belly's falling. And then the third step is to count the number of seconds of your in-breath. So let's say my seconds were 5 seconds. And then you hold for a second, and then you add 1 second to your out-breath. Did I say out-breath first? If I did, I apologize. You count the number of seconds for your in-breath, hold for 1, and then add 1 to your out-breath. So if my in-breath is 5, I hold for 1, my out-breath will be 6. So now when I'm done talking, I'd like you all to try that. So we're gonna take a great big, don't do it yet until I stop talking, but we're gonna take a great big deep breath in through our nose. And as we're doing that, we're gonna try to push our belly out and we're gonna count. So it's really complicated, we got lots of stuff to do. In through your nose, hold it for a second, out through your mouth, and add a second to your out breath. So go ahead and try that now. So again, quick overview of what deep breathing is. And deep breathing is the basis for meditation. We're going to get to meditation at the end of this webinar. We thought we'd start off the webinar with a moment of Zen and end it with a moment of Zen. And in the middle, we're going to do some other stuff. Okay, so that's just a quick overview, but I'm, you know, again, keep on practicing. And if you didn't get a chance, check out our first webinar. Okay, so let's move along to what we're going to do next.
Hi everybody, I am Jacqueline, and right now we're going to be talking about some of the overall concerns that are likely going on for you and that you're experiencing over this difficult time. And what really comes down to is that worries and anxieties about this upcoming school year abound. Unfortunately, they are a part of your daily lives, I would imagine. And a lot of these come from learning for our students and your own mental health. And this is affecting everyone. I think that that's the most important thing to reiterate. And you'll probably hear us say it over and over again, you're not alone. And I think that that can be a very powerful thing to remember, that you have this community, you have us here at Outreach, and you likely have the community of teachers that you have within your school, in your school district, and any friends that you have around you. So the concern with learning is, how is online learning? Should your students be doing full-time online learning or a hybrid model? How is that going to impact their learning? And then how is that going to affect your mental health or their mental health? For instance, when it comes time, if you hear that you're going to be doing a lot of online learning, the stress of that can then help to affect your mental health, and that stress continues to build, which then can potentially lead to difficulty with teaching in an online environment. And the two really kind of play off together. So what we want to do is to address what those concerns are, what those issues are, and as Elizabeth said towards the end, finding ways to help to reduce that stress that are very active and really engage your mind to be able to combat those. Now, as Tracy had mentioned at the very beginning, we had polled teachers from the surrounding counties about what their concerns were. I believe that we also had a couple that came in as a result of our last webinar. We want to thank you guys for your responses, and I think that that's what has really helped to shape this webinar, and hopefully will continue over the next webinar as well. So there's a lot of overlap, and so some of the key things that stuck out was that there's a lack of clarity over how this is all going to work. Even though your schools have likely determined if it's going to be full-time online, full-time in-school learning, or a hybrid of each one of them, how is this going to look for the learning environment? How is it actually going to work? Knowing what you're going to be doing and putting it into practice can be a very difficult and a different sort of experience. There's also obviously, as we had talked about, how is it going to impact your overall mental health? How do you handle the things that you are experiencing on a daily basis, both at home and with the students that you are working with? Now, I think one of the biggest ones that we had heard about, and unfortunately we're hearing this through different protests, and I think a lot of it is coming from online forums, is how communities, how parents and guardians are viewing teachers. And some of the ones that we have heard is that they are calling teachers cowards, and that they are the ones that that the blame comes down on, that their students are not going back to school full time. And we can imagine how difficult that must be for you, having that all come down to rest on your shoulders, whether that is the truth or not. Some of you may very well be worried, and that is okay. Some of you may feel, this is my job, I'm ready to go back. That's okay too. The concern, however, is how is that these responses you're getting from those in the community, how are those impacting how you feel about yourself and your job overall? Not only did we receive some information, surveys from our teachers, we also received ones from administration. So not only are you worried about yourselves and your students, the administration is worried about that as well. They're worried about their staff, their students, and the parents. And there was one survey in particular that this administrator was spending a lot of time on phone calls, usually like around 12-hour days, talking with students, parents, and staff, how all of this is going to look. And as a result, it really stuck out to this person that we may have the general idea, like I had said earlier, but it is not something that can be concrete. We can't know exactly what the school day is going to look like. And administrators too are concerned over the tough decisions that have been made and worried about over fallback or how that these decisions will be taken. So now Elizabeth is going to move into one of the ways that can help us to combat some of that stress and start to get us towards the information about how we can help to relieve some of that stress in your daily life.
Yeah, thanks, Jacqueline. Yeah, like Jacqueline said, that this uncertainty causes a lot of anxiety, and that anxiety causes a lot of, comes from stress and from uncertainty and everything. And sometimes that anxiety then results in some negative consequences. And so we want to try to get at the root of that and try to change that. And so we're going to talk briefly about cognitive behavioral therapy. And cognitive behavioral therapy, just like what it sounds like, you work on cognitive, which is thinking, your thought processes, and on behaviors, okay? And so if you see that graphic to your right, you can see it just sort of outlines what CBT is. That's what we call cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a mouthful, so I'm just going to start saying CBT. And the basic tenet of CBT is that your thoughts drive your feelings, and then that drives your behavior, okay? Your thoughts drive your feelings. And so if you notice though, if you look at that graphic, you see that there's bidirectional arrows. And so really it's a little bit more complicated than that because the directionality is both ways. So our thoughts cause our feelings, but our feelings cause our thoughts too. And our feelings cause our behaviors, but our behaviors also cause our feelings. Perfect example is if I'm feeling really lazy, feeling really unmotivated, I don't want to go to the gym, I'm not going to go to the gym. So my emotion has affected my behavior. But if for some reason I can find a way to push myself to go to the gym instead, I'm going to end up feeling good. So my behavior affected my emotions. Now let's add thoughts to that. If I think to myself, oh, I'm so lazy and I'm never going to get in shape and I'm going to always be disgusting and fat, how am I going to feel about myself? I'm going to feel really, really negatively. If I feel really, really negatively, I'm less likely to do something to help myself, right? And so you can see how your thoughts cause your feelings and your feelings affect your behavior, right? Conversely, if I were to say to myself, okay, I don't really feel like going to the gym right now, but I know I'll feel better when I'm done, then it's going to impact my emotions or my feelings, and that I might feel more motivated or maybe just less unmotivated. And I might be able to get to the gym a little bit easier. And so the whole basis behind cognitive behavioral therapy is for us to look at our thoughts. Those thoughts are sometimes called cognitive distortions, which are just like thinking errors, is another way to look at that, and try to recognize typical thought patterns that we engage in that influences our emotions and our behavior. Now, CBT is used really very often with depression and anxiety. It's a really great way to assist people with that, okay? And so we're going to take a look at a little video about cognitive behavioral therapy, just so you don't have to listen to me talk the whole time, and then we'll keep on working on it. So let's watch that video now.
All right, as Tracy had said earlier, unfortunately, I am not the most tech savvy of people here, so unfortunately need to fast forward a little bit through this video, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at it.
To help put the pieces of my life back together. As I continued to learn about cognitive behavioral therapy, it became clear that I was having a lot of negative and irrational thoughts that did not match up to facts. I would say things such as, my boss hates me, she's always giving me more work, I'll never get that raise. I'd like to hang out with my friends, but I'll just bum everyone out. I don't want them to get mad at me. I used to see things as one big mess. I'd look at my house and get overwhelmed. I'd say to myself, I'm such a slob, I can't handle this. I was quick to call myself names, believe the worst of myself, and downplay any positive parts of my life. I'd get discouraged and avoid dealing with my problems. Cognitive behavioral therapy helped me learn how to rethink and reevaluate how I saw the world. CBT taught me how my negative thoughts would team up with strong emotions and shut me down to further depress me. I can see clearly now that I was regularly interpreting most things in my life in a very negative manner. By learning to recognize extreme negative thinking, I was able to change my thoughts into positive statements such as, my boss gives me the important tasks because she believes in me. I know I can handle things. Taking this approach gave me the confidence to talk to my boss about getting a raise. We had a great discussion, and she told me the steps I could take to advance my career. Little by little, my therapist helped me realize the unproductive thoughts and behaviors I was creating. CBT also refocused me towards problem-solving techniques. I began facing my fears using positive reinforcement techniques, and in time, I started to calm myself on my own. They're my friends, they love me. Being myself is all they've ever wanted. Cognitive behavioral therapy helped me learn how to stop attacking myself and instead think more productively. By changing my thoughts and setting logical goals, things started to get easier to manage. I learned to see things as individual parts that I dealt with one at a time. Just start with the clothes, and when that's done, move on to the dishes, just a little at a time and you'll get it done. By taking ownership of my feelings and thoughts, my behaviors changed for the better. At times, I didn't think my symptoms would get better, but I kept going. I fought back. I stopped allowing myself to use negative thinking about myself to go unchecked. I've taken a fearless inventory of myself, and through hard work, I've been clearer in my thoughts and feelings. I'm proud to say that I am on the road to taking my life back. The cognitive behavioral therapy skills I learned, along with my medication, have helped me to put the pieces together. It's not always easy, but I now know that I can take the steps to handle problems when they come along. By learning more about CBT and how it can help me, I feel more put together and healthy. That's something to feel good about.
Okay. So let's go ahead and
There we go. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at some cognitive distortions. And so, like we saw in the video, that gentleman talked a lot about how his thinking patterns caused a lot of negative outcomes for him. And so we're going to talk about these thinking errors. And thinking errors decrease our ability to deal with things rationally and to think rationally. So like I said earlier, cognitive distortions are also called automatic negative thoughts. So you note the word automatic. It happens really without our awareness. So the first step is to become aware of those thoughts. And then when we become aware of them, we're able to change those. And so we're going to talk about some common cognitive distortions or thinking errors. about 10 to 15 different cognitive distortions. We're just going to talk about a couple of them. I promise we won't go through all of them today. And these are the ones that I see most often with my clients. The first and foremost, which I see almost all the time with people with anxiety and depression, and even people who don't have a diagnosable disorder, but might suffer from a little bit of anxiety, is black and white thinking. This is also called all or nothing thinking, or either or thinking. And it's the belief that there are just two possibilities to be. You might see this a lot with your students. There's people who believe either I get an A or I'm a failure. And there's just two options, A or nothing, right? And I try to work with kids and help them understand that, of course, it's good to want to get an A, but getting a B is still really good. Getting a C is okay too. If you've worked your hardest, that's okay. So black or white thinking, all or nothing. When we think in that way, we really limit, all of the opportunities that might happen in the world. We think there's just two ways to be, and so we're kind of dooming ourselves if we don't make it into that one better category. The second one is catastrophizing, and that is sort of imagining the worst case scenario and thinking that that's going to happen no matter what, and sort of ignoring the reality. You might ignore some facts. It's like Chicken Little thinking the sky is falling, the sky is falling. He's always thinking the sky is falling. And there is a chance that the sky could fall in Chicken Little's world, but it's not, he just runs around all the time saying the sky is falling. And so, when we do that, we ignore, the positive possibilities, and that you can see how that could lead to a lot of anxiety. I had a client at the beginning of the shutdown that was really, really worried about going back to work. And she was like, I am going to die, and I'm getting older, and I'm going to retire soon. And if I go back to work, I'm going to die. And she was catastrophizing. And certainly there's that might happen, and that would be a horrible thing, of course, and we don't want that to happen to anybody. And that's a possibility, but she couldn't see any other options. She could only see the worst case scenario. And you can imagine how that leads to anxiety and depression. And then the third one is called shoulds. So shoulds are these rigid beliefs about how we're supposed to be in the world, or how other people are supposed to treat us. And Albert Ellis, who's the grandfather of cognitive behavioral therapy, he says we should stop, although we must stop shoulding all over ourselves, is the way he says that, which I think is kind of funny. And it's true, though, when we use shoulds, we're really only going to have a negative outcome. I should exercise more. It's going to make me feel bad. And it's basically telling myself I'm not doing enough. And so we need to look out for those shoulds. When we hear words absolutes like should or must or all or every or never, those are all red flags that there's probably a thinking error or a cognitive distortion there. And then the last one is called control fallacy. And Jacqueline's going to talk a little bit about that.
Here I have, for control fallacy, a common picture that I would use with a lot of my students. One of the really big cognitive distortions that we can have is feeling like that we should have control over everything in our world. That if I am doing the right things, everything should just work out for me. And we all feel that at some point in time. Now, the important thing is that without recognizing what you can and cannot control, it is easily going to bring down more stress on your life. For instance, one of the ones in here is that in the inside, what I can control is the friends that I choose to have, or how I respond to others. That is immediately within my control. Who I choose to be friends with, how I decide to treat them. I can treat them as nicely as I possibly can. However, what is outside my control is then how others choose to treat me. We may think that because I am being the best person that I can be, and in being as nice as I can to them, that they should treat me just as nicely back. Unfortunately, that is something that is outside our control. And I think that that can be one of the most difficult things for us to recognize. that there are certain things that, as much as we may want them to be possible, we're not able to control what other people do or how other situations roll into what we chose to do. And I think that this can really help with some of the other types of cognitive distortions. And it's also a really important thing that sometimes we don't always think about. So what I would like you to do, just take about a minute. If you have something in front of you that you can write on, grab that. Or if not, just taking some time to think about it in your head. What are a couple of things in your life within the next day or so that are in your control to do? Take a moment to think about that. All right. Now, looking over what you said that you can control, maybe they're going to line up with that. Maybe there are some other ones that come to mind. What are some things that you cannot control? Now, as you look over the two different ones that you wrote down, the importance of what you cannot control is that you recognize those. An inability to recognize what you cannot control is going to create more stress on your life. Those are the things that need to be put away. Recognizing that you are doing the best that you can do. Focus solely on those things that you can control. Doing your best for your students. Working hard. Taking time to de-stress. Taking care of your mental and physical health. That's all anybody can ever ask of you, is to be the best person that is possible for you to be.
Okay, thanks, Jacqueline. So now that we know about automatic thoughts and how they impact our feelings and behaviors, what can we do about it? And so here is a 4-step model that we can walk through to help address our thoughts. So first thing is an activating event. That's the ABCD model. A, activating event. Something that happens to you or in your environment or happens to you, okay? That activating event leads to beliefs or thoughts, another word for thought. You have a belief or a thought or an interpretation regarding that activating event. And your beliefs, your thoughts have consequences. That's the C. And those consequences are things like your feelings or your behaviors. And then what we need to do, if those beliefs, if your beliefs are negative or if they're cognitive distortions, then they lead to negative consequences: stress, anxiety, depression, feeling overwhelmed, getting angry. And so we don't want to have those negative experiences. And so we need to dispute those beliefs. So you want to challenge your beliefs to try to create new consequences. And so that would bring you, basically you go back up to B, change your beliefs, which will then lead to different consequences, okay? And so what I want you to do right now is to think about some beliefs, think about an activating event or something that's going on in your life right now that you're struggling with. You can jot that down if you've got something to write with, or just think about it in your head. Some kind of event that's going on that you're struggling with. Okay, and that's your activating event, or your A. So for my example, I'm going to use COVID as my example. And so the activating event for me is there's a worldwide pandemic. Okay, never had it before, don't know what's going on, causing lots of worry and concern and stress and anxiety. That's my activating event. Now, what are some beliefs that might affect your event, not my event? Or your event might be my event too. But what are some beliefs that you have that might be causing some negative consequences? And so you might want to jot those down or spend some time later tonight jotting those down. My beliefs that might be problematic with with COVID are, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get really sick and I'm gonna die. That would be a problematic belief, but common. I've heard lots of people, like I mentioned earlier. I've had a client that has really, truly believed that. So that's a belief. So what consequences might that belief have? That, you know, what negative things would it lead to? And you can think about your own beliefs, and or again, like I said, do this later in the evening when you've got a little bit more time. But for my belief, the consequences for my belief is I might feel anxious. I might not want to leave my house. I might have difficulty sleeping. I may lose touch with my friends. So that's the next one, Jacqueline. There we go. Consequences. Those are my negative consequences from my belief that, oh my gosh, I'm going to get sick and die. If I believe that, I might have these negative consequences. No, I don't want to feel that way. I don't like those negative consequences. So I have to go back up to the D. The next step is D, or dispute the belief. And that is to challenge my beliefs. I always tell clients, what's the truth? Let's think about the truth. The truth is not, oh my gosh, I'm going to get sick and die. The truth is, I'm really scared. This is a really, really scary time. But I always say, find the but. That's really important. But there are things I can do to keep myself safe. So I've just changed my belief. And then what I don't have on the slide here, but if I were to change my belief and start talking to myself in that way, I'm scared, but there are things I can do to keep myself safe. I'm going to have different consequences. I might still feel anxious, but it'll be less anxiety. It'll be a lower level of anxiety. And I always also tell, like almost every client I work with, that our goal is not to get rid of every negative emotion, because negative emotions are normal, but it's to shrink that negative emotion into a manageable level. So anxiety is really normal during this time, but let's make sure it's within a manageable level. And so thinking in a, I'm scared, but there are things I can do to keep myself safe, would limit my anxiety, not get rid of it totally, but so that I can manage it. And then I might be able to sleep a little bit better. I might say, hey, there are things I can do to keep myself safe. Maybe I make a shopping list and only go every 2 weeks. Maybe I have Zoom calls with my friends so I can keep in touch with them. Maybe I choose to limit the amount of time that I go out. So there are different consequences that have come by changing those different beliefs. Okay. And so, yeah, so that's it. So if you didn't have time to do that right now, I encourage you to do that at another time. But now Jacqueline's going to talk about meditation. We're going to end with some Zen.
All right, as Elizabeth had said at the very beginning of our webinar, that meditation, which you may have done before, really builds on those deep breathing exercises. You may have seen some meditation on Calm or Headspace if you have been using that at all during this time. Or if you've done any yoga. Yoga is a really a practice that really uses deep breathing and meditation to help to relieve stress from the body. So we're going to take some time to do a 5-minute meditation practice here at the end. So what I want you to do is to find a comfortable and quiet, if possible, place to sit. Sometimes that can be the hardest one, but I want you to find somewhere quiet and comfortable to sit. The objective of meditation is to relax and be present in the moment. This is rather like that 5-4-3-2-1 grounding activity if you had the chance to see our first webinar. It is focusing on the feelings that are around you and within you. Now, one of the big things that can happen during meditation is that while you're trying to focus on your breathing or the sensations that are going on around you, how your body feels, managing to release some of the tension in your body, you may find that your mind wanders. And I want to emphasize, and I believe that they say this in the video too, that is okay. It's almost inevitable that it's going to do that to us. Something in the back of our mind is going to be triggered by maybe something that is being said, or it's just going to come to the forefront of your mind, maybe something that you're worried about, maybe something that you figure, oh, I should have done today, or making yourself a list for things I should have done tomorrow. But what you want to do when you're meditating is that when you notice that your mind has wandered off to a place of perhaps maybe shoulds, bring yourself back to that present moment, whether it's through the person's voice who's going to be doing this guided meditation or the sensations of the things around you. Put those thoughts to the side for a moment. After the meditation experience is done, then you can come back to those, and hopefully some of that stress has been released from your body and you are able to go into the next steps of your day or the evening, preparing for the next day with a little bit more ease.
Hey there, and thanks for gifting yourself these next few minutes. It's important to remember that you're a priority, and allowing yourself even just a few short minutes of intentional reflection can really have a positive impact on the rest of your day. So let's use these next few minutes to come back to center and set an intention for the rest of your day. Move into a comfortable position, whether you're seated at your desk at work or laying on the couch at home, and gently close your eyes and shift all of your attention onto your breathing, taking slower, deeper breaths than you've taken all day so far. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and slowly letting it out through your mouth. And continuing to breathe that way, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale and contract back in as you exhale. Tune into your body, noticing how it feels. Noticing if there's anything that it's trying to tell you. Notice any place of tension or tightness in your body. Give those areas permission to relax, sending love into those areas. Thank your body for taking such good care of you, and let it know that it's okay to rest and relax for these next few minutes. You may notice that your mind starts to wander off. That's okay. That's natural. Just notice it and bring your attention back to your body, using your breath as your anchor. Try to picture one thing that's happened today that's made you smile, or made you thankful or appreciative. And just let that feeling fill you up for a moment. Breathe that feeling in from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And allow yourself to smile if that feels natural. Now focus on something that you can do today, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, that will allow you to continue feeling this way. It could be something as small as deciding to go to bed early tonight, so that you have time to finally read that book that's been on your bedside table. Or the joy of getting dinner with a close friend. What's one little thing you can plan for your day to bring that intentional joy to it? Now just focus on that for a few minutes. Sit in that feeling of joy and peace. Now let's take a few more deep breaths together. A deep breath in, feeling your lungs expand out as you inhale, and everything contract back in as you exhale. Again, an even deeper breath than the one before it. Holding that breath for a beat and exhaling everything out. Last time, your deepest breath yet, sending that breath through your entire body. And exhale it out. And in your own time, slowly bring your awareness back to where you are. And thank yourself for taking these few minutes to just be intentional and kind to yourself. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and enjoy the rest of your day. Hey there, and
All right, now that you have finished our small group meditation today, what I want you to do is to think about some of these questions, right? You don't need to write them down. It's more about taking inventory of what was going on in your mind and your body. What did you notice about your body during the meditative process? I want you to try to describe some of the sensations that you felt. Remember, like what we did with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 activity. Trying to make it as descriptive as possible. What did you notice about your thoughts? Did they wander? Were you able to pull them back to the present moment? What about your reactions to pulling away from the present moment and coming back towards meditation in general? And now is when I really want you to take inventory of your body. What difference do you notice, if any, in your breathing, thoughts, or body now that you completed this exercise? It's important to note that there is not one specific way to answer these questions. Everything is determined by how you react to meditation. It may not be for everybody. Maybe you do better with simply the deep breathing, which is what Elizabeth has talked to us quite a bit about. Maybe that works better for you so that you can continue to think about things, but it allows you to relax. Maybe meditation works for you when you're doing yoga. The important thing is that to remember that sometimes with meditation, it can take some practice. It may feel awkward the first couple of times that you do it, especially if you are with people right now and you're wondering, are they watching me as I'm doing this? I feel others around me. It may feel uncomfortable. If you think that it is something that you would like to try again, we have some additional resources here for you. These are a couple meditation videos that we found on YouTube. So we have a 10-minute meditation for anxiety, meditation for beginners, and a guided meditation for 15 minutes in certain times. And I think that that one was really prevalent. As I had stated earlier, also that if you have been using the Calm and or Headspace apps, those also have a number of meditation exercises on there as well that can be used, especially on the go.
So this is the end of our webinar today. So we'd like to thank you all for coming, and you see our contact information there. If you have any questions or concerns, comments, and you'd like to contact us, the best one to use would be the info@outreachteam.org. And I don't know if Tracy has anything that she wanted to say at the end or not. I would invite Tracy to rejoin us, Dr. Scanlon, to rejoin us to, you know, to impart her final words. And if we don't hear from Tracy, then we'll go ahead and wrap up on our own.
You can see this webinar. Again, it will be made available soon on our YouTube channel. And that will be available to you should you want to watch it again or to share it with anybody, with any other teachers that you feel it could be helpful to. We also want to keep you aware of the fact that there is going to be one final webinar, and we will make sure that we are getting that information out to you around the time that that will be occurring. As Elizabeth had mentioned, if you do have questions, concerns, or perhaps some things that you would like us to discuss briefly in that webinar, please email us at the info@outreachteam.org to let us know about what could be helpful to you, especially as school is getting ready to start. If you are getting ready to start school before the next time we see you, we want to let you know once again that we are here for you with any help that you may need. And lastly, that we know that you will do the best job that you can do for your students and for yourselves. We want to thank you for all of the time and energy that you put into working with your students. I don't think any of us can thank you enough.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.